Hello and welcome to your GCSE History Revision Plan, Crime and Punishment Session 2. So with this being Crime and Punishment, obviously you should have your Crime and Punishment booklet in front of you. And then if you can open it to Session 2, I'll talk you through what's expected in this session. And as you can see, obviously, it's the 1500 to 1700 period, which is the early modern period. And it begins in the same way that we began session 1 with a test of memory, really, for you to give examples of crime, methods of punishment, and methods of law enforcement. Okay. It's also worth thinking about as you go through here what sort of themes are affecting each time period. So, obviously, with early modern, you've got the influence of the monarch and the influence of the church with all the religious changes that take place in the 1500s. And then you've also got a lot of economic factors as well, haven't you? Sort of poverty driving the rise of vagrancy and vagabonds, etc. So be thinking of the themes as well as the examples too. So this table or grid, however you want to call it, can be filled in the same way as you did in session 1, but you're just dealing with one time period. So from memory, remember this is not a copying exercise. I want you to fill in some examples of crimes, punishments, and methods of law enforcement that are in use during this time period. What would be good to do is in brackets afterwards, note whether this is an example of change or continuity. So is it something that you're bringing forward from a previous time period, or is it something that is new to this time period? Okay, so for example, the crime of heresy would be continuity, but the crime of vagrancy or vagabondage would be change. I would suggest that grid would take you up to 5 minutes, but then allow some time at the end to check by using the back of your exercise book or the revision guide. Okay, and as we move into the second task for this session, it's another 4-mark exam question. Explain one way that definitions of crime change between 1500 and 1700. So always with these questions, we're just a good habit to identify what it's asking you to do. So we are looking for change. Okay, we are looking for a change in definitions of crime, and we're looking for beginning to the end of this time period. So we're looking for something really that wasn't a crime as we begun the time period, but was as we ended it. Okay, or something that was a crime at the start of the time period and wasn't a crime as we got to the end of it. Okay, so once you've decided on your examples, you are going to write this answer out the same way that you did the answer in session 1, beginning with the language that is in the question. One way in which definitions of crime changed in this time period was, and then you'll give your example. Now, before you start, definitions of crime is a fancy way, I think, of saying crime. Okay, so in other words, a type of crime. Okay, something that was defined as a crime, something that was said to be a crime. So definitions of crime is a common phrase on the exam. Just don't be put off by it. It just means an example of crime. I would suggest that answer will take you around about 5 minutes, and then I'll introduce you to the rest of the session. Okay, and this part of the session is a simple test. There's some keywords and some definitions on there, and it's a simple factual test where you are going to write your answers in the space on the right-hand side. What you might want to do first of all is visit the relevant section in the revision guide, have a little look over your notes in your book, and then set yourself 5 minutes to do these answers. We'll check the answers either in class or when your book is collected in, so you will get some feedback as to whether your definitions are correct, and then this will form a useful revision tool to dig out again closer to the exam. So if you can undertake that task now, and then I'll introduce you to the final question. Okay, and our final part of this session is, your favourite. It's a 4-mark exam question. Only this one is now asking you to look prior to the time period that we've just been studying. Okay, so as ever, good practice, check. What's it asking you to do? Is it looking for change or continuity, difference or similarity? It's looking for change. What's the time period we're looking at? 11th century to the 17th. So that is the Saxon period to the 1600s. And we are looking for change in punishment. Okay, so we're looking for something that wasn't a punishment in the 11th century and was in the 17th, or something that was a punishment in the 11th century and ceased to be a punishment in the 17th. Once you've decided on your examples, you then write the question out, no more than 4 sentences, beginning with the language in the question. explain one way that punishments changed. So your answer will begin, one way that punishments changed from the 11th century to the 17th century was. Okay, thank you very much for your work on session 2. I look forward to checking your booklets in your next lesson.